Man, I tell you, separation of church and state. CBC, you're funded here by the state, right? No, it's just I'm noticing patterns that the way you bring hope, CBC, is you are kind of resonating and inviting more and more guests that kind of mention things that border the supernatural in their spirituality. And spirituality is something that we all are, but I mean, it sounds like that's the pattern now. Uh, and it's sad that speaking of miracles is I meet somebody that I recognize and I turn my bike around and go say, oh, I haven't seen you at that location for a while, and it's a location where I applied for a job, and it kind of says as soon as possible, but supposedly the person wants to get more applications in first. But and it's just a few hours a week. It's part time, and might grow more. But it's union again, but at least it's a different union, and it's a place I like to be. But I mean, the person said there's a lot of politics there, and I've noticed that the management, the senior staff there are not pro personal development or pro professional development because I've offered to give training free of charge. And the response you get, oh yeah, submit something, whatever. Yeah, well, I submitted a resume, so hopefully you'll let me do some of that once in a while once you see what kind of staff I am. A lot of my videos show a bitterness, right, about living in your communities, and the thing is it's justified. And the thing is my record shows I don't get violent or angry at levels that I'd be kicked out of some place. Like in the past, I was kicked out of places, but not because I was violent, just because I was persistent in a way that scared people. And now I can just be a little bit persistent and walk away and document. So when I film my vlogs that shows some of this bitterness, it is based on your choices, right? So I mean, you could change your choices and then you see what I'm like when I'm not constantly oppressed by the norm, right? So if I get this job, which would seem to be a miracle at this point, then you would see what I'm like on the job. If you let me volunteer to give a life skills lesson or whatever, you see what I am there. I'd be so happy. I'd be so happy to be given the opportunity to help you and to be of service. And then you get to see the non-bitter Martin. But you only want to see the bitter Martin based on your choices, right? You don't want to even benefit from my services free of charge. So, or offer part-time stuff that is something that I'm, based on what you're asking as qualifications, I'm obviously overqualified. Now, I applied for this place because it's the only place really they've known me for a long time in this community, more than a year. So they know, they've seen me interact with other people there, and I've interacted with them. And when my health got better, they probably picked up a little bit of more consistent patience and niceness. It's not like I wasn't nice. It's just, a little bit, when you're triggered all the time by a lot of people in the same community, even the people that are kinder to you, like at this location, will eventually kind of experience a little bit of this armor that you put on to protect. I mean, you do need an armor when the norm is the norm, right? When you're the elusive Homo sapien, you don't say you know what it feels like. You don't know what it feels like to be alone in that way. And to be alone in that way, I would want to go and listen to more supernatural stories, or maybe not supernatural, but spirituality. But the thing is I'm also a critical thinker, so there's a limit to the kind of spirituality that I can experience. And for me, it's not something I talk about or I kind of try to find people to share the same thing. For me, if I go for a walk in the forest here, even by myself, but it's like a trail where you don't see a few people for a while, and the trees and the water and the sound and the just beautiful, again, west coast forests is for me, you get a sense of contentment. Part of it is the exercise, right? The endorphins, but part of it is just the environment you're in. Now, I don't need to kind of make a story and talk about this, but I just experience it. I experience it because it's the biosphere and I'm part of the biosphere. But like if I try to start saying prayers to what I would say sometimes, gratitude, let's say, towards the biosphere or Gaia or the collective unconscious or the overmind or Soul 3, planet Earth or whatever it is, Mother Earth, whatever it is, I don't get responses. So I can't, it's not like in the supernatural way. And if I got responses, would it be in a supernatural way? Or would I have mental illness? Or would I somehow just tapped into some sort of cognitive resonance through, the way my brain is programmed as compared to the norm? I don't, not for me, this is like, it's beyond fringe science, what I just said. It's really, it starts to enter science fiction with very little context in the sciences, but still, I'm not trying to pursue that. I'm not trying to pursue some sort of connection with Mother Earth, that would be a communication that I believe is the greater whole of the biosphere interacting with me as an individual. But the thing is this already happens, but it doesn't happen in the way that we see it as manifesting. For example, when I walk in nature, it is happening. There's a connection there, and it feels good, this connection. But it doesn't need to be some sort of communication in my brain or in my imagination or in my prayers. It just needs to be that we have to stop thinking we're the center of the universe or God's gift to this planet, and then really you experience normally without having to talk about it that much, on CBC, and you just say, okay, that's what it feels like for me to go do that. And it would feel like that to most people. But most people would have a hard time doing that because they'd have all the fears of bugs or wild animals, or they wouldn't be fit enough because of their addictions or lifestyles or things like that. So in a way, you're blocking what is natural spirituality by just not challenging yourself, right? An unexamined life is not worth living. And, if you examine it, then it will become worth living, and it won't be about talk. It'll be about your lifestyles. So again, I'm sorry guys that a lot of my videos are bitter towards you, but I mean, I don't invent the oppression, right? That you do towards me. It can be measured. So again, if your choices change, and it doesn't mean the entire norm has to change, but if somebody gives me an opportunity to do something that is good for them, either a First Nations community or the local employment center decides to kind of stop victimizing me, and they might only do that when, the Premier of BC contacts them. And it's not like I haven't sent letters and I don't have a series of Work BC coming up or a series of Northern Health coming up. They're already pretty much loaded in my computer. I just have to organize the order of it. And then you'll see this is what it's like for an Homo sapien to live among the norms. So of course these videos are therapeutic for me because you won't stop.